Helicopter went down in enemy waters. Then they heard her call sign. Full cinematic long-form aviation documentary, script, single continuous story format. The ocean was black. No moon. No stars. Only endless waves crashing against steel. And somewhere in that darkness, a helicopter was dying. Its engines screamed. Warning lights flashed red. And 4 crew members were about to disappear into enemy waters. Everyone on the carrier thought they were gone. Until 6 minutes later, a broken voice cut through the radio static. Ghost 1, we're still alive. But by then, rescue had become a race against death itself. October 14th, 2012. Northern Arabian Gulf. The United States Navy aircraft carrier USS Blackstone cut through violent waves under a moonless sky. Wind slammed across the flight deck at nearly 40 knots. The sea below was rough, angry, unpredictable. On the deck sat Ghost 1, a Sikorsky MH-60 Seahawk built for one purpose: bring people home. Its mission tonight was simple: fly into a hostile maritime zone. Provide extraction support for a covert surveillance team. 36 miles out. In and out. 40 minutes. Routine. At least that's what command believed. Inside the cockpit, Captain Sarah Kane adjusted her helmet and stared at the glowing instruments. 29 years old. Over 1,800 flight hours. Calm under pressure. But tonight, something felt wrong. Not fear. Instinct. Beside her sat LT, Marcus Reed, checking navigation. Behind them, Chief Petty Officer Logan Hayes secured rescue gear, while systems specialist Diaz ran final diagnostics. Everything looked normal. Fuel full. Engines stable. Navigation clear. Outside, deck crews waved them forward. The rotors began spinning. Faster. Faster. Until the Seahawk lifted off the deck and disappeared into the darkness. At first, the flight was smooth. The carrier lights faded behind them. Ahead was only black ocean. The kind of darkness that erases the horizon. No sky. No sea. Just emptiness. Sarah kept her eyes locked on instruments. Flying blind over water at night was one of the hardest things in aviation. One mistake, and you'd never see it coming. 11 minutes into the mission, Marcus leaned closer to his radar display. Something appeared. Vast. Unidentified. No transponder. No call sign. Moving behind them. Matching speed. Sarah glanced down. It stayed there. Watching. Ghosting them. Marcus called it in. Control, Ghost 1. We have unidentified contact bearing 230. Nothing. Only static. Again. Nothing. The contact moved closer. Then, vanished. Like it had never existed. Sarah frowned. That wasn't normal. But before she could think, master caution. A loud alarm exploded in the cockpit. Hydraulic pressure. Dropping. Vast. Marcus stared at the gauges. Hydraulics failing. Sarah gripped the controls tighter. The helicopter felt heavier. Stiffer. Like something underneath was fighting her. Hydraulics were everything. Without them, controlling the aircraft became almost impossible. Then a second warning. Transmission oil pressure. Now her heartbeat spiked. That was worse. Much worse. Transmission systems transfer engine power into the rotor blades. Without it, the helicopter becomes a falling brick. The Seahawk began shaking. Violently. Not turbulence. Mechanical vibration. Deadly. The rotor above screamed louder. Marcus looked up. Transmission overheating. Sarah called Mayday. Mayday, Mayday. Ghost 1 experiencing critical mechanical failure. Carrier command answered immediately. Ghost 1, return heading 095 immediately. Sarah pulled the aircraft around. But something was wrong. The wind had pushed them farther north. Much farther. Marcus checked coordinates. His face turned pale. Sarah, we crossed the line. Enemy waters. They were inside hostile territory. If they went down here, rescue would be almost impossible. Then, tail rotor warning. The helicopter jerked hard, spinning left. Fast. Violently. Sarah fought it. But the aircraft kept turning. Tail rotor failure. One of the deadliest emergencies in helicopter aviation. Without the tail rotor, engine torque spins the entire aircraft uncontrollably. There was only one option left. Ditch. Sarah looked down. Black ocean. Massive waves. No lights. No rescue. She took a breath. Brace, brace, brace. The Seahawk slammed into the sea. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. The cockpit exploded with freezing water. Instant darkness. The helicopter flipped upside down. Sinking. Vast. Sarah ripped free from her harness. Marcus kicked out a side window. Hayes escaped first. Diaz was trapped. Hayes saw him, turned around, and dove back inside. The aircraft was sinking deeper now. 20 feet. 30. 40. Water pressure rising. Hayes reached into the wreckage. Found Diaz's arm. Pulled. Nothing. Stuck. He pulled harder. The metal gave way. Both shot upward. They broke the surface gasping. Alive. Barely. Sarah counted heads. 1, 2, 3, 4. All alive. But stranded. Floating. Enemy waters. Pitch black. No raft. No backup. No radio. Then Sarah heard it. A beep. Her emergency beacon. Still alive. Damaged. Weak. But transmitting. She grabbed it and hit send. Ghost 1 still alive. Silence. Then static. Then, Ghost 1, say again. Carrier command. They heard her. Relief hit instantly. But so did another reality. Enemy frequencies could hear it too. And they did. On the coast, fast patrol boats launched, heading straight toward the signal. Back on the carrier, another Seahawk launched. Call sign Angel 2. Rescue mission. Maximum speed. No hesitation. Out in the water, Ghost 1 drifted with the waves. The cold was getting worse. Diaz was shaking uncontrollably. Hypothermia. Sea temperatures were dropping fast. Sarah kept everyone awake. Talking. Fighting. Hayes spotted lights. 3 of them. Vast boats. Coming. Enemy. They're here. Closer now. Engines loud. Searchlights cutting through darkness. Then above them, rotor blades. A helicopter. Hovering. No markings. No lights. Watching. Marcus stared. That's not ours. It circled once. Then disappeared. Minutes later, Angel 2 broke through the clouds. Finally. Rescue. But the enemy boats were already firing. Tracer rounds tore across the water. Bullets slammed around them. Hayes grabbed the rescue line first. Pulled Diaz up. Sarah climbed next. Marcus last. As Angel 2 lifted, gunfire ripped into the side. One round hit the fuel tank. Fuel leaking. Vast. The pilot pushed everything. Maximum power. Returning to carrier. 30 miles. Fuel dropping. Then, engine 1 flamed out. Silence. One engine left. Heavy load. Bad weather. Leaking fuel. And a carrier deck pitching in violent seas. The pilot held it steady. Barely. The deck lights appeared. Closer. Closer. Then, impact. Hard landing. Safe. Everyone survived. But the investigation would reveal something stranger. Weeks later, divers recovered the wreckage. The black box told the truth. A microscopic crack inside the tail rotor drive shaft had triggered everything. Hydraulics failed. Transmission overheated. Tail rotor collapsed. Pure mechanical fatigue. No sabotage. No enemy hit. But one mystery remained. The unidentified aircraft that followed Ghost 1 before the crash. Radar logs were incomplete. Some files missing. No explanation. No identification. Captain Sarah Kane returned to flight duty 6 months later. Diaz survived severe hypothermia. Hayes received a medal for valor. Marcus retired from combat aviation. And the Navy changed everything. Stricter tail rotor inspections. Improved emergency beacons. Better night ditch survival training. But even now, Sarah says one moment still haunts her. Floating in black enemy waters. Hearing her own voice echo into the darkness. And hearing someone answer. Before rescue command ever did. To this day, nobody knows who heard Ghost 1 first. And in aviation, sometimes surviving the crash is only the beginning. The deck was shaking beneath them. Angel 2 had made it back. But barely. The landing wasn't smooth. It slammed hard against the carrier deck, metal groaning under the force, rotor blades still spinning as fuel leaked across the steel. Deck crews rushed in. Medics tore open the side door. Sarah Kane collapsed the second her boots touched the deck. Her legs gave out. Not from injury. From adrenaline. Marcus fell beside her, coughing seawater. Hayes still held Diaz, whose lips had turned blue. For a moment, nobody spoke. The sound of the ocean was louder than anything. Because everyone on that deck knew. They had almost watched 4 people disappear forever. Diaz was rushed below deck immediately. Body temperature dangerously low. Pulse weak. Doctors fought for nearly 2 hours just to stabilize him. Sarah sat alone in debrief. Still soaked. Still shaking. A blanket over her shoulders. Coffee untouched. Her hands wouldn't stop trembling. Across from her sat Commander Ellis. He asked the first question. What happened out there? Sarah stared. Not at him. At nothing. Because even now, she wasn't sure. She explained the hydraulic warnings. The transmission failure. The spin. The ditch. The sinking. But when she mentioned the unidentified aircraft, the room changed. Ellis looked up. What aircraft? Sarah frowned. The one behind us, 11 minutes after takeoff. Marcus confirmed it. Same radar contact. Same position. Same speed. But when operations checked radar logs, there was nothing. No contact. No unknown aircraft. It was gone. Completely erased. That didn't make sense. Radar doesn't imagine targets. Not both systems. Not at the same time. But before they could investigate. Another report came in. Enemy patrol boats had reached the crash site 9 minutes after rescue. 9 minutes. If Angel 2 had been delayed, Ghost 1 would have been captured. Or killed. That reality hit hard. Very hard. The next morning, recovery teams launched. They wanted the wreckage, especially the black box. But enemy territory complicated everything. The Seahawk had gone down in contested waters. Divers had only a short window before daylight, and before hostile forces arrived. The sea was rough, visibility near zero. But after 4 hours, they found it, 48 meters below. Upside down, broken, tail section nearly torn off. It looked violent, like the helicopter had ripped itself apart before impact. Back on the carrier, Navy engineers began analysis. At first, they suspected battle damage. Maybe enemy fire. Maybe sabotage. But the metal told another story. A crack. Tiny. Barely visible. Inside the tail rotor drive shaft. Just 6 millimeters long. But enough to destroy everything. Over time, repeated stress had weakened it. The crack spread. Slowly. Silently. Until that night. It snapped. That single fracture triggered the hydraulic loss. Then transmission overload. Then complete tail rotor failure. A perfect chain of disaster. It was mechanical. Not combat. Not pilot error. But Sarah kept thinking about one thing. The voice. That radio transmission. The first one. The one that answered her. Because when communication logs were reviewed, carrier command hadn't responded first. Someone else had. 3 seconds earlier. A different voice. Unknown. Unidentified. The audio was damaged. Distorted. But clear enough to prove one thing. Someone else heard Ghost 1 before the Navy did. Who? Nobody knew. Weeks passed. Then intelligence brought new information. Enemy forces had recorded strange air traffic that same night. A helicopter. No markings. Operating dark. No lights. No transponder. Shadowing the crash zone. It matched Sarah's report. The aircraft that followed them. But whose was it? Enemy surveillance. Private military. Black operations. No country ever claimed it. No radar data confirmed it. And the file was classified. Sarah wasn't allowed to ask again. Months later, she returned home. But sleep didn't. Every night she saw it. The water. The darkness. The sinking cockpit. Daya's trapped. The Black Sea swallowing the Seahawk whole. She'd wake up hearing alarms. Hydraulics. Transmission. Tail rotor. Over and over. Marcus left service not long after. He said he couldn't trust silence anymore. Because in helicopters, silence usually means something's already wrong. Hayes stayed. But changed. Before Ghost 1, he believed training solved everything. After Ghost 1, he understood luck matters too. Diaz survived. But he never flew again. Cold water trauma left nerve damage in his legs. For months, he learned to walk properly again. Yet every year, on October 14th, all 4 met. Quietly. No cameras. No medals. No speeches. Just coffee. And silence. Because some stories don't need words. The Navy rewrote procedures after Ghost 1. Tail rotor inspections doubled. Emergency beacons redesigned. Night water survival training expanded. But one classified note remained buried inside the final report. A sentence few ever saw. Unidentified signal intercepted prior to official rescue acknowledgement. Meaning someone, somewhere, was listening. Sarah asked once. Years later. Did we ever find out who answered me? Commander Ellis paused. Then said something she never forgot. Sometimes in war, Not every aircraft in the sky belongs to an enemy or a friend. That answer stayed with her, because she remembered the voice. Calm, clear, almost familiar. And it hadn't sounded hostile. It had sounded like someone checking if they were alive. But if it wasn't Navy, who was it? That question still remains unanswered. And somewhere, beneath the cold waters of the Gulf, pieces of Ghost One still rest on the ocean floor. Silent, broken, forgotten by most, but not by the people who were inside it. Because machines fail. Metal breaks. Systems collapse. But survival is something else. It lives in instinct, in courage, in impossible choices, and in the voice that answers when you think no one is there. Because on that night, Ghost One went down in enemy waters. But somehow, someone was already waiting. And to this day, nobody knows why. Years passed. But Ghost One never truly ended. Not for Sarah Kane. Officially, the case was closed. Mechanical failure. Combat zone emergency ditching. Successful rescue. End of story. But Sarah knew it was. Because every time she replayed that night in her mind, one thing kept returning. That voice. Not the carrier. Not Angel 2. The first voice. The one hidden inside the static. 3 words. Reading you, Ghost One. Simple. Calm. Too calm. Whoever it was knew their call sign. And that meant one thing. They were listening before the crash. Sarah requested the full classified recording. Denied. Twice. By the third request, Commander Ellis personally called her in. He shut the door. No paperwork. No witnesses. Just the two of them. He slid a file across the desk. Thin. Red stamp. Classified. You didn't get this from me. Inside were satellite images. Night vision captures. Blurry. But enough. A helicopter. Black. No insignia. No visible markings. Flying without lights. Matching Ghost One's path. Keeping distance. Tracking them. Sarah stared. Who are they? Ellis didn't answer. Because maybe. He didn't know. Or maybe he wasn't allowed to. Then she saw something worse. Timestamp. The aircraft had appeared 20 minutes before Ghost One launched. Waiting. Like it knew. That changed everything. This wasn't coincidence. It couldn't be. Sarah spent months trying to understand. She studied maintenance logs, flight prep, radar, weather reports. And then she found it. The Seahawk had been flagged 3 weeks earlier. Minor vibration. Tail rotor irregularity. Nothing serious. Cleared for flight. That crack, the one that caused the crash, might have already been there. Growing. Waiting. If maintenance had grounded Ghost One, none of it would have happened. That truth hit harder than the crash. Not enemy fire. Not war. A missed warning. A tiny mistake. Big enough to almost kill 4 people. But that still didn't explain the shadow aircraft. Then came the call. 2 years later. Private number. No ID. Sarah answered. Silence. Then breathing. Then a voice. Low. Familiar. You survived longer than expected. Her blood froze. Who is this? The line went dead. No trace. No location. Nothing. She reported it. No investigation followed. As if nobody wanted one. Marcus heard about it. He told her to let it go. Some things are buried for a reason. But Sarah couldn't. Because deep down, She knew that night wasn't random. Ghost One was watched, followed, and somehow predicted. Then, in 2018, a retired intelligence officer contacted her. Off the record, he asked about the unidentified helicopter. Sarah told him everything. He listened carefully, then said something chilling. There are aircraft in war zones that officially don't exist. Black operations, ghost surveillance, off-book missions, units without flags, without records, without accountability. And sometimes, their job is simply to watch, to observe, to make sure certain things happen. Or don't. Sarah asked the question, were we being watched or protected? The officer smiled, but never answered. That was the last time she saw him. Months later, he died. Heart attack. At least that's what the report said. By then, Sarah stopped asking. Not because she had answers, because she understood. Some truths are bigger than clearance levels, bigger than governments, bigger than pilots. Today, Captain Sarah Kane no longer flies combat missions. She teaches emergency survival. New pilots, new crews, new generations. And every class ends the same way. She tells them, trust your machine, respect your checklist, but trust your instincts more. Because on the night Ghost One went down, her instincts told her something was wrong before any warning light appeared. And maybe that feeling saved them. Hayes still sends her a message every October 14. 3 words. Still here, Captain. Marcus moved far away. Lives quietly. Never talks aviation. Diaz walks with a slight limp. But he walks. And every year, they all remember the black water. The cold. The waiting. The lights in the distance. And that impossible voice. To the world, Ghost One is just another military accident. A report. A file. A forgotten mission. But for the 4 people inside that Seahawk, it was proof of something terrifying. Sometimes the sky is not empty. Sometimes someone is watching. And sometimes, when you call for help, the first voice that answers isn't the one you expected. And that is what still haunts them. Not the crash. Not the ocean. Not enemy waters. But the fact that somewhere, someone knew they were falling. Before they did. And if that's true, then Ghost One was never alone. Not for a single second, to this day. The official report on Ghost One remains sealed. Most people only know the surface story. Mechanical failure. Emergency ditching. Successful rescue. Case closed. But the people who lived it know better. Because some parts of that night were never explained. Captain Sarah Kane still keeps the damaged emergency beacon. Burned. Salt-stained. Broken. A reminder of the night the ocean almost took everything. Sometimes, late at night, she replays the recovered audio. The moment her voice breaks through the static. Ghost One still alive. And every single time, that first reply comes back. Not from the carrier. Not from Angel 2. But from somewhere else. Copy that, we see you. 3 seconds later. The Navy answered. 3 seconds. That was all. But in aviation, 3 seconds can mean life or death. Years later, no one ever claimed that transmission. No military unit. No Allied force. No enemy operator. Nothing. Just silence. As if whoever answered was never supposed to exist. Sarah once asked Commander Ellis one final time, "Tell me the truth, who answered us?" He looked at her for a long time, then quietly said, "Some aircraft fly missions that history will never record." That was the last conversation they ever had. And maybe that was the closest thing to an answer she would ever get. Today, the ocean where Ghost One went down is calm. The wreckage still lies below, rusting in darkness, a machine frozen in its final moments. But the memory of that night still lives. In Sarah, in Marcus, in Hayes, in Diaz. Because survival changes people. It teaches you how thin life really is. How fast normal can become disaster. How one tiny crack in metal can change everything. And how sometimes, when all hope is gone, a voice can come from the darkness. A voice you can never explain. Ghost One survived the crash. They survived the sea. They survived enemy waters. But the mystery survived too. And maybe that's the most terrifying part. Because somewhere out there, in skis no radar admits exist, someone heard them fall. Someone watched. And someone answered. But the truth, it went down with the helicopter. And some secrets are meant to stay underwater forever. Fade to black. End of transmission.